you the Keymaster?
Welcome back to Desk Talks, everyone. I'm your host this week, Rob. I'm joined by my brother to my left on the screen, Chase. Say hi, Chase.
Hey, guys!
And more importantly, not that we're not important, but we have the newest addition to the DES team, our Director of Education and Curriculum, Mr. Jonathan Sample, all the way to the left on the screen. Say hi.
How you doing?
Perfect. He hit the perfect Midwestern high. How you doing? And I love that.
Born and raised.
I love that. All right, so in that light, let's talk about it. Like I said, John is the newest addition to the DES team, so we're just going to jump right into it. So, John, I'm going to let you tell people what you want them to know about you.
Okay, I'm John. I have been more around medical education for the last 15 years, 11 years of military prior to that. So I'm coming over here from kind of a little bit different spectrum of looking at things, but I'm excited to be here. I'm open to talk about just about anything.
We're glad you're here. You filled a huge need for us here at DES. We're excited you're here. So you had 11 years in the Army, as evidenced by is that the Master Infantry badge or Combat Infantry badge?
Yeah,
what is that on your wall behind you?
The Combat Infantryman badge. It's called liquid metal, actually. Yeah, it's called liquid metal, and it's got that really cool, like, wavy texture to it, and it looks like oil, almost. It's awesome. My wife and brother-in-law got that for me.
Is it actually made out of liquid metal?
Can I walk around with this, with you guys on there?
I don't know. Can you? Let's find out.
Yeah. I don't know if you can see the different, like,
his purple.
Can you see the metal, like, kind of?
Yeah.
And one day I want to be as cool as John Sample.
One day you need people in your corner who, like John has, who get you cool stuff like that.
That's it. That's key.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll give you a high five, Bubba. I'm proud of you.
He left you hanging.
I'm happy for you. He did. That's fine. That's fine. So, 11 years?
Yes.
Infantry the whole time in the Army, right?
No, infantry, active duty infantry for 4 years, and then I was a recruiter for a little over 2, and then a little under 4 years infantry, a little over 2 as a recruiter, and then I did a few years in the reserves, human resources after that.
Okay. All right. So date yourself for me here just a little bit. What year did you join?
Okay. I shipped out to basic in June of 2002, June 2002.
Okay. All right. So we were having a conversation before we started here, and we were talking about 9/11, remembering where we all were. I was in 6th grade, Mr. Duke's class. Chase was a sophomore in high school.
Sophomore.
In government class. John was playing hooky and asleep his senior year of high school, which I appreciate. So
I wasn't playing hooky.
I
wasn't playing hooky. I just hadn't gotten up to go to school yet.
Right.
But yeah, that's how I found out was my mom came home and was, usually she did. She was kind of panicked and mad at me and whatever. And this time was just different. There was just a sheer terror. And she turns on my TV, and that's what we saw. That's what I woke up to. So yeah, I joined the Army a couple days later, infantry.
So was that the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back for you, or were you planning on joining the military even before 9/11?
Yeah, so I'd already taken my ASVAB and gone through my physical, so I pretty much decided it. Some of the career choices I was making as a high schooler, like maybe sleeping through school, was also indicative of the fact that I just planned on joining the military. I didn't have a lot of foresight past then when I was 17. Yeah, I'd already done all the pre-requirements. I was just waiting on a contract, and my recruiter called me the next day, and nothing had changed. So that Saturday, he actually picked me up after a football game in a town about 30 minutes east of my hometown, and then drove me all the way to Des Moines, Iowa, MEPS that night to get up in like 2 hours and go do my physical and my duck walk and all that fun stuff and pick a job. So
that's wild. That's wild. So you joined in 2002. You chose infantry. So you were through with basic and AIT. I'm assuming you went down to Fort Benning.
Yep. Fort Benning, Georgia, home of the infantry. Went down there, spent
13 weeks in total for you?
Yeah. Yep.
And then what was the next stop after Benning?
After Benning, it was to Fort Riley, Kansas. So,
sorry.
It's my own fault. I chose that. A little while before I shipped out, my brother called and asked what I was doing. And I actually had a contract to go airborne. And he kind of convinced me. He goes, you know what? Come to Fort Riley, hang out with me instead. And I'm like, yep. Called my recruiter. I'm like, I kind of want to go to Fort Riley and hang out with my brother. And he goes, all right, man. So renewed my contract, and Fort Riley I went. I got there, and within a little while, he was gone. He got back, and within a little while,
Of course.
I went. Yeah, it was.
Isn't that funny how that works? I mean, you guys work so hard to get back together, and then he deploys out pretty much as soon as you get there.
Yeah, that was perfect. It was hilarious.
Chase, you and I had a similar conversation, didn't we? I was leaving Korea, and I called you, and I think at that time, you guys were headed to Alaska. You had orders to Alaska or something.
Yep, we had orders to Fairbanks. Yep.
Yeah, and you tried to talk me into drum. But different from you, John. I said, absolutely not. I am not. Hey, more power to you, all my 10th BSB cats that are out there listening. I have mad respect for you, but Cold and I do not mix very well.
Hey, look, Fort Drum was a magical place. Okay, magical things happen there. You know, either your career goes to flourish or it goes to die.
Why do we say that about every military installation everywhere? Name one place that you've heard only good about.
Because it doesn't matter where you put us, we're still just as dumb.
I was about to say, Camp Pendleton, is a cruiser. Camp Miramar. Let's see here. I've heard that if you go over to Joint Air Force Base, what is that, outside of D.C., I heard that's where your career goes to take off.
That's not Cherry Point, is it? Cherry Point's in Carolina, isn't it?
Cherry Point's in Lejeune, outside of Lejeune, North Carolina. Cherry Point isn't bad either, but it's an air wing. I mean, I'm talking all Marine stuff. In the Army, I always heard that going down, being around in the Virginia area, one of those bases weren't too bad. You're a little closer to the flagpole. Fort Campbell, I always heard that Fort Campbell was a blast as long as you don't mind messing around with the 101st.
Yeah, and the fact you're in Clarksville, Tennessee. I don't know if too many people enjoy that. I thought Schofield was the obvious answer. You're in Hawaii, but everyone I've talked to who's been stationed at Schofield, the only thing I hear about is rats, the size of the rats in Hawaii.
I get more of the isolation.
Where all were you stationed? We know
people I know that went to Schofield felt isolated on the island.
I can imagine.
Yeah, they, especially people from here.
And I heard the Islanders don't like you.
It can't all be bad, though. I mean, you're in Hawaii.
After a week, you just wanted to go somewhere.
It is what you make it. It's like every post, right?
Mm.
Yeah, okay. Depending on how far away from home you are, especially it can be isolating. I went to Fort Riley, first station, so that was, 8 hours from home, quick little drive. So I didn't have that isolation thing. Like I said, Midwest born and raised. Besides the tours the Army sent me on, I'll live here forever. I love the Midwest. But from Fort Riley, I came down on recruiting orders and then got moved up here as a recruiter. So that's how I ended up in Omaha initially. So did recruiting for 2 years up here. So and this is where I met my wife. And then she made it clear that I was from Omaha now. So I live here now. All I have to say about that.
Isn't it so nice? Isn't it so nice to have someone in your life who dictates those things to you?
Yeah.
I tell my wife all the time, it opens my brain up for so much more activity.
How easy was the military?
That's true.
The military, be in the right place at the right time with the right uniform. Somebody always told you where, when, and what.
Yeah, say the 3 NCOs on camera right now. It's the easiest thing. You got to be in the right place, right time, right clothes on. We're all like, yeah, this is easy.
You're not going to be Sergeant Major of the Army.
Yeah, I saw it.
But you'll be successful.
That's true.
Hey, yeah, no, someone else can hold that title. I'm good.
You missed your chance, Bubba.
Buddy, that wasn't even on the radar. So let's not even go down that path. So, all right. So, John, you join the military. You go down to, did you do basic and AIT at Benning?
Yeah. So there's really no difference in basic and AIT. They wake you up at like 5 a.m. Say you're at AIT. and then you start the day. They smoked us a little bit.
Well, congratulations.
But that's the big difference. And then the day just carries on. Yeah, I mean, you don't even change bunks,
Right.
man.
I'm so glad they take care of you down there. So we go to Benning. We go from the extreme, and you're there in June. So if anyone has been in Georgia in June, bless you.
Talk about the swamp, baby.
Dude, I'm having a hard time breathing right now just thinking about it.
And it was terrible. So they got their little monsoon season down there, too, while we were there. You have to dig a foxhole in that Georgia clay, that red Georgia clay.
Oh.
And then it rained, and you're still stuck in that foxhole. It's just now a pool.
It's got 6 inches of water at the bottom.
You can't pee enough to get that to body temp, man. You just can't.
I'm glad you said it because I was thinking hot tub opportunity, maybe. I would just like to say this is the start of a good country music song right here. Digging a foxhole in that red Georgia clay. Like, you could make a whole country music song off of that. So you go from Benning up to Fort Riley, Kansas, right? So how many, were you in Fort Riley for 4 years?
So Riley was just at about 3, so with the basic and that, it puts me at, 3 years down on infantry, and then,
Yeah, you're at peak time. Like, we just declared war recently, so I assume you deployed rather rapidly.
Well, so that's the thing is, like I said, my brother deployed. So the other infantry unit deployed out of Fort Riley right after I got there. And then we got put onto QRF status, Quick Reaction Force for stateside.
Mm-hmm.
So we then went through riot control training and all that fun stuff to then be prepared to deploy stateside if anything happened. I was with 116 Infantry.
That's wild. So when did you go on your first deployment?
So that wasn't until September of 2003. We left.
Okay.
Yep. Left for, Kuwait.
Okay. And how many deployments in total?
2. I've been on 2. I did, so since I did end up kind of following my brother around, just a fun story about Kuwait is when they assigned me a tent, I get to the tent and the door closes between the person and me, and a buddy of mine goes to open it. I'm like, nope, shut the door. And it's Staff Sergeant Dehart and Sergeant Sample's school for soldiers that want to learn to soldier good and do other things good too. So I end up in the same tent as last names kind of fall similarly no matter what unit you're in,
Yeah.
But I did end up in my brother's old tent that he'd had in Kuwait. Yeah.
It's a sample tent.
Yeah. So we moved then from Kuwait about a week later up to Ramadi. And then we were stationed in Ramadi.
Okay. How long? So at that time, deployments were a little bit longer than they are now. So how long was your first deployment?
We were told a year, and it ended up being a year. There were deployments that were being extended around us depending on job. I don't think that our guys really heard much about it. I left the deployment injured a few months before them. They came back in September of 2004. I came back in July 2004.
Okay. Is that what got you the Purple Heart up behind you on the wall?
Yes. Yeah. In a firefight, I took shrapnel in my left eye. It went kind of through the bottom of the eye and then buried into the optic nerve. So lifeline or eyesight's instant evac. So they load you up and fly you out. They sent me to Germany, spent a few days there, and then from Germany ended up stateside to Walter Reed, then Scotts Air Force Base, and back to Fort Riley.
Eventful. That's an eventful first deployment, man.
A lot of traveling.
You and I have a similar treatment there, buddy. That's Walter Reed's where they sent me, and over to Scotts Air Force Base.
Yeah. All right. Now we know the path they like.
Never mind. I'll keep that internal to us. But so you have 2 deployments. Then you have your recruiter orders, right?
Yep.
So you do the recruitment thing. So when did you get out?
So I ended up getting out then February 2008.
Okay. And what was the first stop for you after that? What'd you do next?
So I've kind of already then aligned with an Army Reserve unit. I was going to switch over to the reserves and then lined up a job as a DA civilian through the reserves. So by the time I got out of active duty, I rolled right into the reserves and then the beginning of federal service.
Yeah.
I went went from infantry to recruiter to HR. It was just a very slow decline and from sugar to shit, I say.
You might be the only person I've ever heard refer to being an infantryman as the sugar portion of that
It
story.
was the best, man. It was the best. No, I
Was
like
it
my time
really?
as, what's that?
Was it really? You really enjoyed your time?
I did. There was the fair amount of just stuff that we had to do over and over, but I didn't mind training. I always actually loved training. It's made sense to me. I understand why we do it. That's why I've enjoyed the previous career I had as long as I did, and it's part of the reason I'm really looking forward to this one. But I've always understood training, and when you're in basic training and you're doing those training lanes and they're shooting at you, but you're still going to crawl under that barbed wire, you're going to do it, right? You know, buddy movements. I got you covered. How many times did you guys do those while you were in?
Oh, yeah.
We did them a lot as infantry, and it was to ingrain it in you. When I got in my first firefight in Iraq, we were on a patrol and we heard it. We heard the gunshots. All of us kind of spin on our heels and take off running toward them. A few hours after that, after that adrenaline dump happens, everything comes down, and you're like, what was that? That's not the right reaction. What happened there? Just, one of our, Sergeant Hawker, one of our older NCOs, our platoon sergeant was explained it. He's like, that's what we've been training you to do. That's why we shoot at you and you run at us. Like we've been ingraining it. And that was it, man. So now I understand training. I mean, obviously there was more to it, but it started to really click. So I really, truly did it and started enjoying all of it and participating more. To me, one bad person not participating in the training or taking it serious ruins it for everyone. I did love the infantry, and that's what you did then. Then once you saw what you were doing and understood it, it had purpose.
It became holistic at that point, right? You kind of saw it and said, oh, that's why we get up at,
That's
zero
man.
dark 30 and we go out here and we do this because combat is dynamic and we need to be as dynamic as we can and simulate the battlefield. Like, dude, it warms my heart to hear another former NCO who got it.
Yeah.
Who understood the training, right?
Everybody says it, right? Train as you fight, but how many truly do it? So,
That's something that Chase and I have talked about a lot. A lot. Any opportunity that we had as NCOs, and you're conducting a training, it was one of my biggest pet peeves. Same with Chase. If somebody kind of slacked off or, didn't put 100% into it and trying to get, especially in my world, right? Because I'm different from both of you. John, you were infantry. Chase, you were logistician.
Yeah.
Right? And I was a true support element as an intel cat. I'm not shooting at anybody. As a matter of fact, if I'm shooting at somebody, we have a real problem. Like, it has hit the fan. We have a real problem. So
the chaplain's assistant's already done all they can do.
That's what I'm saying. Like, we're pulling ripcord. We're getting out. But with you guys, and then I want to jump into what you did before you came over to us, John, because I think the two are applicable. But I think that was such a struggle for me to get, as we sit inside of our skiff, to get my soldiers to understand the gravity of their work because we're so far removed from it. So did you take what you learned in that moment? Because I heard what you said. First firefight you get into, you hear the shots, everybody, you're about face on heel, move into contact, you're ready to go, right? Mm-hmm. It just kicks in, and it is that fast. It is that fast. That training is recalled immediately. So whenever you came back stateside or in your previous career, how did you get everyone to understand the gravity of the situation, why we were doing that training? What did you have to do as an effective leader?
So that's always a struggle. I will take one of the probably most common things I ran as an educator and as a SimTech would be codes. I worked in hospitals and code blues, rapid responses and those sort of things are very prevalent. They happen a lot. So we train on them a lot. So we train different parts of the hospitals. We do randoms. We drop by. We do full systems tests where, everyone responds. The police respond, everybody. And then we do a patient transfer into inpatient, the emergency room, wherever. So they have to test the entire system. How long does it take from contact to CPR? So we run a lot of those. And you will see it. You'll see people that aren't doing the CPR, that aren't doing some of that, and you watch it really. It does affect everyone. Once one person's not taking it serious, then the next one's not. And just in the debrief, usually there's more than one. So you run a couple of them. So in the first debrief, I like to stress on practice makes permanent. So what you need to understand is how you react to this situation now is how you're training yourself to react to the next one. It's not practice makes perfect. It's practice makes permanent. And I'm big on that distinction. And getting people, that one's one that kind of clicks for people. It's like, yeah, I want you to be calm and I want you to be collected, but I don't want you to be nonchalant and laissez-faire. I don't need you to be distanced in the room. As a possible, I worked at the VA for the last 5 years almost. So that is my healthcare. So I would say that during some of those events, I would say, like, this is my healthcare. So I know what I'm getting here by watching you guys. So it would be encouraging or not.
Yeah. So tell everyone what you did before you came over to us here at DES, John.
Okay, so after my federal service with the Army Reserves, I went over to the University of Nebraska Medical Center as a program associate, just actually running just the behind the scenes of the program, the calendar, the scheduling, that sort of thing. I was building manager. Basically, I counted chairs and made sure there was enough chairs in every room. Lowly, humble
sounds like
beginning.
you became a loggy.
And then they made it really easy for me. The rooms had different patterns. All I had to do was match the most common pattern to the most common pattern. But it was for a simulation lab. So when I'd interviewed, I had just finished up doing some training down at Fort Riley, Kansas, where we did the EST 2000, the laser guided weapons qualification.
Too.
Yeah, so we ran, we ran a few units. There was multiple people down there that drill weekend units. So we ran multiple units through the trainer and just other things like that as an NCO. I'd redone a lot of the riot training I'd done. I was in a military police battalion, so going with some of that riot training, I shared some of that, different things I got along the way. Then I went, so that kind of the training NCO aspect really did transition into the new job, which wasn't really programmed to be a program specialist for long. It was then really quickly integrated into, I think, simulation associate. And then I was in charge of simulation. So now what I was doing was meeting with educators, figuring out what they wanted to do, and then we had full body mannequins. They do just about everything. They blink, they breathe. They sweat. You can make them sweat.
Yeah, they squirt blood through the arteries, right?
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah, I can.
If this is too graphic for our audience, suck it up. Yeah.
It's a training dummy. Everybody calm down.
Yeah, so I can put on those legs, and then if, say you got an open wound like that, you can actually have to apply a tourniquet. When you apply a tourniquet correctly with enough pressure, the bleeding stops. That sort of thing. You can do compressions.
So you're doing like real world operations with these mannequins. They're meant to simulate a full body experience, right?
Yes. And in my time at UNMC, I'd done the in-hospital stuff. I'd also gone out and done several patients for Epley Airfield's triennial disaster exercise where they have a crash, or we simulate something like that. So we bring up a bunch of patients for that. I'd taken mannequins out to the deserts in New Mexico and ran them for the parajumpers, where we had some British Special Forces and Israeli Special Forces. So out to some random old copper mining
Chaco
town.
Mountain, right?
Some random copper mining town. Ayaz, New Mexico, maybe. It was one of those really creepy towns from like the nuclear explosion movies in the 50s where they walk through and the whole town's deserted. There's bikes leaning against the garage. There's cars in the driveway, but the town is deserted. And it's just like a mountain training site now. There's one building has a helicopter that's been crashed into it, so they use the hole for extraction. Like I carried one mannequin up to the top of a building so they could, get the patient down. I don't ever want to go down on top of a building. If you see what they do, it's not safe.
So you took the training
they roll you to the
aspect
edge
of everything.
Yeah, they roll you to the edge, and then a couple guys stand like this against the wall, and then they just roll you down. Yeah, and then you hit the ground. They hit one so hard my mannequin's wig fell off. I never found it. It's still there, probably.
Still there. Way to check his closet. I don't know what kind of stuff you're into, but let's not air it out here. So you took the whole training NCO moniker and you ran with it. So that was your what you did before you came to us. So you were just doing training but focused on the medical aspect with VA, right?
Yeah. So between the codes, I've also like a stop the bleed instructor. We have other things. I was on the cadre, which is a team of emergency response officials at the VA. So if there was any emergency or anything like that, we were activated to come control that sort of thing. We handled a lot of the initial push of vaccination for COVID, running like the lanes and figuring out a process to get thousands of people through in a day. That sort of thing. We're activated for any fire emergency, that sort of thing. So that team, I was on that team, and then I did
from infantry to recruiter to HR to trainer, medical. John's kind of covered the scope here, man. You've had a pretty fun career. It sounds like so far. We're so happy to have you here at DES. And it makes sense why we have you here as our director of education. You've had so much experience in educating others and educating yourself. And seeing and projecting what those needs are, man. We're just so glad to have you here.
Well, thank you. I'm very happy to be here. Very excited.
Bill said, shoot, we're excited you're here too, man. All right, so that's John. Like Chase and I both said, we're excited you're here. This won't be the last time that everybody hears from John, but we do have some more important news that I want to dig into. So, Chase, I know you had something you wanted to share with us surrounding updates with VA, potentially something to do with Department of Ed, right?
Yeah, so we've been hitting pretty hot and heavy on our desk talks. We've had a lot of guests. We haven't had a chance to kind of come back and talk to you guys. I think back on February, let me check myself here. Back on February 13th, Senator Doug Collins came out and started addressing veterans. He made a promise to us in a video platform and then came out on the VA news saying that veterans benefits will not be touched. The cuts and stuff that the current administration is going through is solely, on administrative and trying to cut fraud, waste, and abuse. One of his recent tweets that I saw, he actually, re-upped that by tweeting out that no benefits will be touched. This is for fraud, waste, and abuse.
Well, and I think there's a lot of chatter surrounding that. Right? Both for GI Bill users and non-GI Bill users. The best way to couch this for anyone out there that's nervous or paying attention, if it's impacting Title IV funding, then it will likely impact GI Bill users. Likely. But so far, they haven't touched Title IV. The only thing that has been referenced is DEI, and that's not something that we're going to get into here, but that shouldn't impact Title IV. Have I understood that correctly?
As I read it, yeah.
That's my understanding.
Yeah, the fact that the Department of Veterans Affairs has opened up its doors and is complying with DOJ, with the department, Department of Government Efficiency. I think that's made a lot of people nervous about what's coming down the pipeline. And it should make us all, not nervous, in my opinion, but you should be paying attention to what's coming down the pipeline. As far as your benefits go, as far as education, we don't see anything in our sphere as far as education goes. Like Rob said, John, you worked in the VA. You had the emails and stuff come through.
Yeah.
Did you see much touching benefits?
So as far as the video goes, I do think he touches on it a little bit when he says that, how does he word it? Shoot. They're not going to restructure the veterans healthcare right now and the veterans programs. They're not going to privatize it right now. I think he says that in that video. So that would tell, as far as the benefits aspects go, the VA, the hospitals, there is an intent to keep that and to keep it functioning as it does. There are some programs that are care in the community. I think some of them are necessary, as getting certain specialties is difficult on maybe a federal salary offering. I'm not a doctor. I don't make doctor money, so I don't know
Yeah.
what that looks like.
The three of us have worked for the federal government before. We know that that's not where you go to make your money.
Yeah. Veterans are a labor of love, right?
Amen.
That's what my wife says. But yeah, I don't think that that's going anywhere. So, and as far as getting the emails, yeah, it was pretty hectic when all of a sudden it's this email saying, "Hey, we're going to restructure. If you would like to walk out now, do it." That's my personal take on that email was they're going to get rid of some people. And right now, if anybody just wants to jump ship, do it. And then they're going to restructure around it. Yeah, it's going to make it a little difficult to hire in those spots. My understanding of that program, if you did the deferred resignation program, is you kind of lock that spot in for a year, or at least until September 30th. Why would they hire somebody new in it if they're still paying you? But then that would come along with the work justification. So there are spots still being filled, even though currently there's, the current climate. You just got to justify it and say, hey, we do need the spot filled. And it's happening. So I don't think they're going to cut anything past what they need to. Yeah, some of those positions will sit empty for a few months, but justifying them after the period, I think, will always be back on the table.
Yeah. Well, it's an audit. That's what DOJ is doing right now across all government departments,
Correct.
right?
Are you seeing your emails and are you answering them? Is what I think part of it.
Oh, I guarantee it. Yeah, time tracking, time and task tracking, probably heavily involved. Fiscal spending is heavily involved in that. Well, I'm glad you took it, and I'm glad you're here with us. And hopefully, I'm sure, not to make light of the situation, but I know there's a lot of people impacted by some of those cuts and drawdowns from the VA side. And so, our hearts are with you on that. And if you need help, if you need guidance, there's somebody here on the DES team who just went through it. He may not have the answers for you, but I'm sure he'd be more than happy to hear you out and at least have a conversation with you.
Absolutely.
So what else you got for us, Bubba? Anything else from Mr. Collins?
Not much from Mr. Collins. We kind of wanted to steer clear of some of the hotter button issues that are going out today, but wanted to come back and reassure. There's no loss. I just want to reiterate that there's no loss to your benefits. GI Bill's not going to be touched. People that are freaking out about the Department of Education, there has been some talk around that, about it being, I think we talked about it in a couple episodes back, and I said I enjoyed the imagery of dismantling the Department of Education. I want to reiterate the fact that was, that's my ADD brain. I see things in pictures, so it's fun. But Department of Education, there's still no change to that. If, like Rob said, if we see a change in Title IV, then you might see some effects, but it shouldn't affect your benefit itself. It might affect how you can use that benefit, but that benefit will be there.
Now help me out here, Chase, just for 1 second, because I think all three of us have said benefits. We're talking specifically GI Bill benefits. I know John mentioned healthcare benefits, which we don't see changing, but you're talking about GI Bill benefits, correct? Or educational benefits?
I'm talking about inclusive. So you don't see education benefits being touched, nor do you see your other benefits being touched at the federal level, veterans at this time. Your benefits are run through the VA. Secretary, not Senator, Secretary Collins has assured us that our benefits are not going to be affected as of right now. We're keeping a pulse on it. Here at DS, you have 3 veterans that use the VA healthcare system sit here in front of you through the healthcare, through the education. All 3 of us have used that. We are very versed and want to safeguard all of our benefits for our future. So keep on coming back. Check us out for more. If you have anything that you want to ask us, make sure you drop a comment below.
Well, you're right, and we did say a few episodes ago that we didn't anticipate any changes
Correct.
to the GI Bill or the larger umbrella being veterans educational benefits. And I think, what is it? Not Senator Collins. What is it?
Secretary Collins.
Secretary.
Thank you. Secretary Collins just confirmed that for us, that there's not going to be any changes. So for those of you, and I know there's quite a few, there's a lot of chatter out there, especially in the higher ed space surrounding veterans and regulation. And I think once the dust kind of settles here, because it'll settle here soon, I hope you'll see that the impact it's going to do nothing. I really genuinely believe it's not going to impact, those GI Bill users out there. So just keep your ears to the ground. Come back, see us. We'll update you just as soon as we can. And Chase is doing a wonderful job of not only presenting the information here on Desk Talks, but also presenting the information on all of our social channels. So if you're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, I'm going to keep going to YouTube, Rumble. What else? LinkedIn. So Chase is posting updates on all of this the second that he sees them. So make sure, is it Dynamic Educational Solutions on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Rumble, all those?
No. So on Facebook, we are Dynamic Educational Solutions. On TikTok, we are DES_official. On Instagram, we are Dynamic Ed Solutions. Guys, we came into this game in 2023 and had to start grabbing up what we could take.
Hey man, we're catching up. But the moral of the story is make sure you're liking and following those pages as well, because we are doing our best to update everyone in real time. We are certainly no media outlet. We're just veterans trying to serve our community the best way we can. So we're going to send you the raw information and let you draw conclusions off that. I will add all the links in the comments section below or in the video description. So if you're not well versed in social media like me, just click on the link and then there's a big old follow button right there. Make sure you hit that. And then if you're on YouTube, hit that bell icon. That way it lets you know every time we post. But we can't thank you enough for being here. John, really excited you're on the team now, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you for introducing yourself to the audience here. And before I close out, any other parting comments from anyone here?
I think the video where you're listing off our socials, they need to scan down your face as you're trying to do them.
Yes.
That's it.
I'll work on that. I'll just a moving tracker down my face. You got it. In my abundance of time, I will endeavor to do that for you. All right. Thanks for being here, everybody. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. And as always, keep it minimally professional, right?
Yeah.
We'll see you on the next one.
Catch you on the next one.
Bye.